Comic-Con. How you guys doing? What's wrong?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, okay.
I just got smarter.
So, right, we're in San Diego at Comic-Con. This is like the exclamation point of my year. Totally. So I wanted to. What's that? Is this shitty year? Remember, kids, only Uncle Aaron can curse. No, it's cool when adults curse. It's just gross when children do. Are there children in the audience? Okay. Oh, there's one. Oh.
Just inside.
So, I have already done two cosplay walks on the floor. I know that you know that I have walked the floor in the past as a Wookiee. I have been perfecting a Wookiee costume for years. This year I changed it up and I went as a pair of Wookiees.
Are you in both costumes at the same time?
I am not. I'm in the costume on the right. The costume on the left is actually a new product that's going to be sold through Anovos. It is a licensed Chewbacca costume. And let me tell you about making a Chewbacca costume. It's really easy making a Chewbacca costume to make Chewie's lesser brother, Jowbacca. And it's really difficult to get Chewie right, and they really, really did. It's a beautiful product. So let's scroll through a couple of these. Yeah, look at this. People were freaking out since Chewbacca, and actually I heard several people go, "Oh, a Wookiee couple." So welcome to 2017. Oh, and the kids were just like, the children would just come up and hug your leg, and they're like so psyched to hug a Wookiee. It's awesome. And the best is my partner. My other Wookiee was my friend John Hodgman. Yeah! And I have to say, getting back into the car after the walk, and John pulls off the head and he's sweating bullets and he's got those raccoon eyes, and I'm like, how did you like that? And he was like, that was great! He's like, I love the liberation of not being able to be seen. Oh yeah, we had a really good time. Now, I want to talk about the other costume. So, in my TED Talk a couple of years ago, I showed this slide. This is perhaps my very first cosplay. I am 15 years old here, and a year before, my dad had taken me to see John Borman's amazing film Excalibur. And that started a lifelong love affair with armor. And I submit that actually my obsession with spacesuits and safety equipment is all based on the same love of being able to wear your own protection. Because all that fire gear I wear on Mythbusters, it makes me a little bit of a superhero, because I'm like impervious to fire within reason. So a year after this costume, I made a suit of armor out of aluminum with my dad. I wore it to school. I passed out of heat exhaustion in math class. Woke up, and in a state of like zero irony, I woke up in the nurse's office half an hour later and said, "Where's my armor?" Like I needed my turtle shell. I'm telling this story because 5 weeks ago, the testing crew, Joey and Norm and Danica and I went to Cornwall, England, where the armorer for Excalibur, Terry English, master armor, took me under his wing for 7 days and taught me the rudiments of making armor. And together, next slide, we made me Arthur's armor from Excalibur. I can't even. There's so much content we built around this. First of all, I think we're gonna get like 10 videos out of the build. Terry gave us Armor 101. His shop and his house is totally insane. It's like a garage. You've seen pictures of my cave. His cave is just as dense, except everything hanging from the rafters is suits of armor. Armored gauntlets and helmets and breastplates and sabatons and elbow cops and stuff. And I also used this opportunity to make my own Excalibur using what I learned from Peter Lyon at a workshop. I did a build last year of Strider's sword. And then I did another build of a foam LARPing sword so that I could wear it on the floor, and I still couldn't get into C2 to go get my armor. Was that what I was supposed to go? Yeah, the line was too long. I ran out of time and I was sweating in the armor, so I went swordless. But, so there's Terry. Yeah, he's an amazing designer. I want to show you a few of these things. So yeah, I will tell you that getting on a horse dressed in full aluminum armor freaks the horse out.
Yeah.
And that horse did not take kindly to it. So the first time I tried to swing a leg over him, he got out of the way before I was done. And I fell off that horse in a full suit of armor. And I was fine, except I had the weirdest bruises. Like, I had a bruise like there from the armor. Next slide. Yeah, so this is walking around today. I will say, walking the floor in a full suit, it still only took 3 minutes for someone to figure out it was me. But because I wasn't an iconic character, I actually got to walk pretty deeply. I went all the way to the Weta Workshop booth. That's David Silverman from The Simpsons wearing a utility kilt, and I don't think he's wearing anything underneath it. I wore a full face-over balaclava, which I still can't remember the Amazon term I used to find such a thing. I started looking at Slender Man costumes. I figured, oh, they're covering their whole head. Last year, actually, Nathan Fillion was telling me stories about sweating, because he's always, on Castle, he's always in a big suit, and he's outdoors, and he's like, his method is to take a giant ice pack and just put it in his lower back. And he just holds it there. He's like that, but he says you can lose 3 pounds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Spacesuits. Yeah, absolutely. I feel those 3 pounds at the end of the workday.
Right.
I wish I could lose 3 pounds. I play hockey, and if I go for a really long time, I can lose 7 pounds water weight.
Wow.
Playing hockey in a 90-minute pickup game.
Is that like called a Canadian diet?
It is a Canadian diet. It's a Canadian half-old fat guy diet.
But then you drink it back after the game.
Yeah. But I drink it right back though.
Yeah,
it's
you
fine.
drink it
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, days on set, you could see people at the end of the day, they were a little more gaunt, and they would be, especially a guy like Tomo, because he's already thin and super fit, and he would his veins would be a little more pronounced, his face would be a little bit more gaunt. You really don't notice it on me. I needed like 30 pounds of water weight to go away from it. Have you cut your hair?
One of the things I love about walking the floor is seeing people's discomfort in full costume.
Oh.
And that's part and parcel of the whole experience. Is like, Christ, getting it right, going back to the bathroom and realizing you've had something wrong the whole time. At the same time, I mean, it informs character in a deep way. Am I right?
Oh yeah. Definitely. And I think when the whole atmosphere of when you were there, you came to visit set, you see when you're doing the blue screen and you're on top of the ship and you have this huge, heavy space backsuit on, which is made out of a wetsuit that surfers wear.
It's
neoprene wetsuit that surfers
neoprene
wear.
with bed liner armor, right? Yeah, it's like nothing but insulation.
And then you got the bag and everything on there. It just really informs the environment. It really reminds you how hard it is to survive in space and the challenges that, I mean, I'm sure it's nothing like, I'm not going to go there, but yeah. So.
For me, it's the shoes. I find the character in the shoes. If I put on a pair of boots, I'm suddenly a little bit taller. It arches my back in a different way, puts my legs in a different position, and it's the boots. Especially if I'm wearing like boots, if my character has boots. I did a show called The Bridge in 2009. We did 1 season, and it was for CBS and CTV in Canada, and I played a police officer turned head of the police union. I was president of the police union, and they gave my character these really nice suits and a pair of zip-up boots, so it was like a little bit of a heel on them. And I wore those things every single bloody day for 2 years, and then I kept them because I tried to steal as much as possible. And I did an indie film last year, and they said, "What size are you?" And I said, "I'm going to be in." You know what? I have a perfect pair of boots. I'll just bring them. And I put them on, and I stepped into them, and my brain instantly went back 8 years to, oh, it's The Bridge. You're Frank Leo again. It was so weird, because it's just the walk, it's the feel. Because I wear Vans usually, I'm always just like in sneakers or Vans. So when I put on something that has a little bit of a heft to it, my brain goes, whoa, okay, this is a different thing.
I get it, because when I put on high heels, it gives me a little sass. Pep my step.
You go to your job at the pump jack?
Yeah. They hurt, but nothing makes my calves look better. Deborah Dumoulin-Landis, a friend of mine who's a master costumer, said that experienced actors always ask for their shoes like 5 or 6 weeks before production so they can wear them in. And I would imagine the cost of not doing that is fairly high.
Yeah, because you know what it's like to break in a new pair of shoes, especially if it's shoes that you don't typically wear. You're getting blisters and they're annoying and they're aggravating, and it's, I mean, I grew up playing hockey, and like the skates was the thing. You put on your skates, you get in a tub, a really, really hot tub, you tie the skates as hard as you could, and then your feet would sweat into the skates, and everything would mold around, the leather would get pliable, and everything would mold around, and you'd just sit in there for a little while, and then
in nothing but skates.
In nothing but skates. Just the skates, Adam. Do you want me to tell you more? And then you get out.
It's like a really weird Wolverine.
Adamantium skates. Wait a second. Adam.
Well, like, Logan, come. Actually, never mind.
It is fascinating how malleable our identity is, because so much of who we are is the clothes that we buy for ourselves and the things that we wear. And so when you're playing somebody different, or you're playing character, as soon as you find their clothes, it informs another person. Yeah.
Everything we wear is costume. So I was just flirting with your co-star, Shohreh Aghdashloo, who I'm like so in love with.
Right.
And she's like, hello, and that voice, and she's like, you look beautiful. And I'm like, I look beautiful. I feel so much. Well, so Deborah also told me, I was telling her about replicating Admiral Lord Nelson's Trafalgar uniform, and she said the British military uniforms pulled your shoulders back. She said those captains could not raise their arms above this height, but it kept that, the suit pulled you into the legal bearing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's really. The Star Trek Discovery, the new show that they're doing, they have an exhibit of costumes, props, and everything like that just up the street here. I don't know, it's one of the streets. Somebody know where it is?
He's pointing that way.
You don't know, it's over there. 300 yards into the water. Okay, so anyways, wherever it is, it's very cool. We went there today, and they have these costumes that are just so elaborate. And I mean, they have like the regular thing. There's no fat guys on Star Trek. I'm never going to get a job on that show. Like these things are built for like coat hangers. But they have like the Klingons, like the garb is just so, it's layers and layers. And as an actor, the first thing, like Mike Trucco and I went, the EP of the show took us for a tour of this thing, and the first thing my brain thinks of when I look at a costume, I go, how do you get into that and how hot is it? And I asked the guys, how does he get into it? Because it's something underneath, and then a piece over top, and a piece over top, and a piece over top, and a breastplate, and then a helmet. How the hell do you get into that? Okay, well this comes apart, and that comes apart, and this thing. And I'm thinking, well, you can't move, you can't see, it's impossibly hot, it's gross, you're just going to sweat your Katie sack off in that thing. And it's insane. So that's really what I would, and if you get a chance, go up and check these things out. They're beautiful, they're incredible. But that's my first thought. Whenever I have a wardrobe, like all these people on these doctor shows, I don't want to have to do all the medical jargon, but man, I just want to wear scrubs and sneakers. It's the greatest costume in the history of mankind. It's scrubs, it's what I lie around in my house.
So a few years ago, I'm in Las Vegas, and when they shut down the Star Trek Experience, and my friend Steve from Big Bang Theory calls me up, and he's like, dude, they're selling all the props from Star Trek Experience in Vegas this morning. And I was like, what? And I ran downstairs, jumped in a taxi, and took it to this warehouse on the edge of Las Vegas. And the warehouse gets up, and there's like 500 people in line. This is so awesome. And I get out of the taxi, and everyone turns around and looks at me, and I go, oh crap, I forgot I was famous a little bit. And then the taxi drives away. And I signed autographs for about half an hour. And then they brought me, and then they opened the doors, and I'm walking in with some of the organizers of the sale. And this is germane to your Klingon thing, is I go, oh wow, Klingon costumes. And she goes, you don't want those. I'm like, really? And she's like, I don't even. Those have been sweat into for a decade.
They've been worn. That's all they've been worn.
Okay, I would love to spend the rest of our time together taking some questions from you lovely folks, and there's a microphone here up the aisle. Oh, hey!
Don't fight, don't fight.
Those Klingons move.
Everyone look out for Oogie Boogie. Oh my God, what is that? You look amazing. Are you one of the Mandalorian mercs? Ish.
It's his own thing.
When I was where?
Mercury Asteroid. Saw you in 2014. Mercury Asteroid.
Oh, when I was, oh, you found me. Oh, I love that costume. That was one of the more comfortable ones. The one you're wearing does not look very comfortable. Yeah, it is. Oh, hello, green-shirted person. What is your name?
My name is Brett, and my question is, have you found any more interesting related items? Like, because a while ago in your TED Talk, or I think it was a different talk, you talked about your the Maltese Falcon and the skeleton sculpture that you did. I was wondering, have you found any more interesting items in those, or are those like two of the most storied items in your collection?
That's a really good question. And by the way, there's a Maltese Falcon out on the floor, owned by Debbie Reynolds. I'm here to tell you, it's a piece of crap. This is controversial, but there are two different Maltese Falcon sculpts out there. There's the right one, and then there's that piece of drawing.
And there's Debbie Reynolds.
Whoa. Well,
You have one?
no, I don't. I don't. But the problem is that there was a comedy. Maybe most people don't know this. There was a comedy sequel to the Maltese Falcon starring George Segal called The Blackbird.
I saw it.
It's terrible.
Yes.
And they made a Maltese Falcon for that film that doesn't look at all like the original. And yet Warner Brothers had these in their collection, and all these people like Harry Anderson had copies of this and thought that they had copies of the Maltese Falcon, but they didn't. Sorry, I'm not even getting close to answering your question. It's a serial set of obsessions, but some are deeper than others. I did get an audience with a real Maltese Falcon a few years ago. It was the one previously owned by Harry Winston Jr., Ron Winston, Harry Winston's son of the Diamond Deer, is that what you call them? And I still have amazing photos and measurement reference, so someday I will replicate that Falcon exactly. The Blade Runner gun is just done, and I pull it out about once a week and look at it and giggle. Right now, I'm diving into a Han Solo blaster obsession, and that is a deep pool, man. He has like 6 different blasters, and they're all like, some of them change scene to scene, if you're paying careful attention. And for me, like, the glory is in the research, so I'm like, well, I guess maybe I'll end up with 6 of them. The Han Solo blaster is the latest one. I know we did a Han Solo blaster build on Tested years ago, but that was Norm's Han Solo blaster. I still had not gotten one yet, so now I've gotten parts for mine, and I'm going to be gunsmithing and What prop have you saved from BSG? What do you have in your house?
It's better, well, it's easier to get forgiveness than it is permission. So, I really wanted to take a Viper, but I couldn't fit it in the Volvo. But I thought if I put it in the carport, put it up on a gimbal and stuff like that, when the paperboy came around, it was like, step away from the smoke and everything like that, so no. I have an inordinate amount of dog tags because people would take them off. I'm Matt Damon in Ocean's 11. Like, I can pickpocket anybody's anything. I have dog tags. I have the clips. I have my orange jumpsuit. I have my BDUs. I have all my boots. I have gloves. I have a pistol. I took everybody's chair backs one day. Nobody's filming this, right? I don't mind filming. Okay, good. I try and take as much as I possibly can. But they really frown. Like the last days of Battlestar, because they came on and they sold all that stuff. They auctioned it all off. Yeah. So they had people from the auction house guarding every door. And you go up to turn your pockets out like you're some kind of common criminal, which I kind of was, but well, I've been here for 7 years, you've been here for 7 minutes. And then they go to your trailer and they want to look through your bags. What? Really? Oh, it's really annoying.
That's like working at Old Navy.
Wait, how many years were they doing that? Like last 2 years?
No, it was the last like 2 weeks. Because they knew we were all just going to start
Remember when the PA stole Seinfeld's door buzzer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what have you gotten from the Expanse one?
Well, hearing the story, I'm thinking I need to still more.
everything back.
I'll think about
I
it.
got one of those belts. Your costumer gave me one of those beautiful military belts.
You took one of the guns, right? You took Amos's the automatic. Oh no.
No,
The
no.
automatic shotgun is what I'm gonna get.
Is that a no or a
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
No, you didn't take it or no, you didn't take it?
I was confusing shows because the armor on BSG recently gave me, we traded, and I got the original aluminum machine shrouds for one of the Battlestar Galactica guns.
Oh.
Yeah, for like a hero. So I've got an exact hero replica.
Oh. Well, I have an actual pistol, so yeah. Suck it, savage.
Thank you for that question.
Is that over here? Do you have the Blade Runner gun that he?
I gunsmithed my own version of it from scratch.
Out of here.
And it only took 5 years.
Have you been in his cave?
No, he has not yet.
Oh, run, don't walk. Like, it's the coolest.
Run away or run
No,
to?
run to.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
coolest, craziest thing. Yeah.
Now, Aaron started a tradition of bringing me something I didn't have. So what Aaron brought me was that green vinyl fabric that the Battlestar Galactica flight suits are made out of that isn't available, that no one can get, that people buy in large lots. Aaron brought me a chef's hat made out of that stuff.
So if I bring something and grants me entry to the cave.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In San Francisco or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's got to be cool though, because I've really set the bar.
I guess
Mandalorian.
I guess I have to give you one of my chest diamonds instead. But yeah, I see you built the arm. That's amazing. My chest armor here is also actually steel, so stupid.
It's actually steel?
Yes.
You're insane. That's awesome.
They keep telling me that.
But it feels so good, right?
It's actually lighter than people realize.
What's that?
It's lighter than people realize.
Right.
But yeah,
But you made it out of steel because you wanted the real experience.
someone threw out a filing cabinet.
With a pen.
I love the ingenuity of killing a filing cabinet to make a costume. That's
About
awesome.
40 dozen cut off wheels in the process.
All right, so what's your question?
I actually forgot.
I love that I was running towards you, just went like this.
Blasters are amazing. I mean, any new, are you getting access to do the new Blade Runner blasters and build your own?
Oh yeah, so I went to the Blade Runner Experience where they have props from the new film. Norm? Can I? No? All right. We'll have some information on Tested at some point that will be germane to this conversation.
I also saw they had the species from Martian.
Yes, the EMU.
Yeah.
So our friends at FBFX actually built those suits, and they're really, really high fidelity. Those are lovely, lovely pieces. So yes, I was at the Blade Runner exhibit. I took hundreds of photos of all of those props. And I, this morning on eBay, there's this beautiful old military telephone painted with Japanese characters as part of the Blade Runner universe. I already bought one this morning. I'll be like downloading all the information about it. What I really want from that exhibit though is Ryan Gosling's high-necked fur inside leather coat from the new Blade Runner film. That thing is gorgeous.
I thought you said what I really want is Ryan Gosling.
Doesn't that go without saying? I mean, that's just like a universal thing. Like, we all like donuts.
How many people went to the Blade Runner Interactive so far? It is incredible. It's a kind of really
They have a VR experience that's really nice, and I'm here to tell you, you know I have the weakest stomach in all of Christendom. VR can leave me feeling funky for a few hours. They have a solution that's really kind of nifty. I won't spoil it for you, but it's really nice. Thank you, sir.
This is not correct.
Hello.
I had the first Mythbusters related question. I was kind of wondering when you're talking about the props from the other movies, if there's anything from Mythbusters that you had kept after you blew up or crashed through so much at the final episode that you kept for yourself. That
Lots. Lots. Yeah, and it was a bit of a negotiation with the production company, but like my opinion was, if I built it, it's
I own it.
But during filming, you would give things away.
Yes.
Like I have one of the bullets from the episode where they're doing like can the bullet turn the curve? Yeah, the curved bullet.
There was no central archive of key Mythbusters detritus, so I tended to save most of the stuff. I have like a jar full of bullets we used in different episodes. I have a jar full of silver dollars with bullet holes through their centers. Among the things I saved, I think my all-time favorite was the early weirdest build, which was the paper crossbow. I built a working crossbow out of a bunch of newspapers. We had to use Chinese newspapers because they didn't want to see any advertisements that could be recognized on American television. Lawyers.
Where do you keep all that? In the cave?
I have 3 storage spaces in 2 different states. I'm a very high-functioning hoarder. It's good that I made some TV money for a while, because otherwise I'd just be a hoarder. I also did things like when we finished Duct Tape Bridge, I cut up about a dozen chunks of that bridge, and Jamie and I signed them, and I let those go for auction items for fundraising. I did fundraising for both of my kids' schools at different points. In fact, actually, my cave itself is a fundraising tool. For a couple times a year, I'll host what's called Cocktails in the Cave. And we auction it off at my kids' school, and it's generally gone for between $2,000 and $3,000. You can believe it. Yeah, and like somebody brings 8 friends, and I tell stories about the stuff that's hanging on the walls, and we make cocktails for 2 hours. So yeah, lots of. I still haven't gone through. Here's the one thing: when we did Lead Balloon, which is maybe my all-time favorite Mythbusters episode, I figured out this origami way to make the lead, to assemble the balloon out of lead while only moving each piece once, which was really important because lead is so delicate. And I have my original drawing of figuring out the 12 steps of assembling this balloon. And I mounted it in a display box with a piece of the lead, with a cutout of me and Jamie that our producer, Aaron Haven, who is a comic book artist who's here at Comic-Con this year with his work. He's been here every year for the past few years. He was up for an Eisner Award last year. He's an amazing illustrator, but he's also one of my key producers for 15 years. And Aaron drew me and Jamie, and I made this beautiful display, and I can't remember if I took it or not. And here's the thing, at the end of Mythbusters, everyone on the crew got to choose, everyone on the basic crew got to choose 3 items. They put a sticker on 3 items and they got to take it. And my feeling is, like, I'm really sad if I didn't remember to take that, but whoever got it, well, it's theirs. Like, I'm not gonna go get it back from them. I may make a replica. Thank you for that question. Oh. It's a young person we've been corrupting with filthy language. Hello, sir.
Out of all the projects that you've done, which one was your favorite?
Oh, man. Really, your favorite project is always the one you're working on. I mean, for me, no. Oh, I am a privileged individual. I can't tell you the exact details, but on Monday I go into production. I'm executive producing a show for a good friend of mine, and I'm bringing the band back together. So a bunch of my old Mythbusters crew. It's really delightful to be producing. Yeah, I will call you. Yes! It is delightful to be producing a show that I'm not in, and using all the other knowledge I gleaned on 15 years of Mythbusters to produce a show for someone who I see as a young version of me, who thinks both like a maker and a producer and a storyteller all at once, and providing that person with a toolbox with which to have fun. And it feels like I'm saving them a lot of time and energy learning things the hard way like I did, and that's delightful. So that's my, again, that is going to show up on Tested very soon. The fact that that pilot exists, the moment we're able to announce it, Tested.com is where we'll trumpet it to the rafters.
Cool. Great.
Yeah. So before you, I'm curious, what was your favorite project?
Battlestar Galactica bought me a house.
Right, but, so I just want to point out that Jaws 3 bought Michael Caine a house.
Are you saying that Battlestar Galactica is the equivalent of Jaws 3?
No, I'm merely saying that the fact that it bought you a house doesn't necessarily mean that it's fun to work on.
It's the show I'm most proud of.
It's an amazing show.
Thanks.
It changed my life. Actually, there's a really, really lovely connection between these two fine gentlemen. They both work on amazing shows, The Expanse, Battlestar Galactica, both incredible shows that are really changing the way people think about science fiction programming and storytelling. But they also both come from showrunners, Ron Moore and Narain Shankar, that cut their teeth in the writer's room of Star Trek Next Generation. And Gene Roddenberry, for the original series and for Next Generation, didn't build shows. I'm getting chills as I'm saying this. He built families. Yeah. And if you ever meet any of the Next Generation cast, I interviewed Jonathan Frakes last week, all of that cast are still friends. They still hang out. They stood up for each other at their weddings. They're godparents to each other's children. And Gene Roddenberry passed that on to future showrunners because both The Expanse and BSG are also families. You guys all hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, I've had two kids. I had a kid the first season and a kid the second season, and everybody was a part of it, and they'd see pictures and family, and we talk, and so we're extremely close. And I haven't really had an atmosphere where we're this close since this show.
It's a lovely feeling being on that set. I mean, even everyone, the painters, the craft services people, it's all the family.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and they've all been together. We just started the third season now, and we have pretty much the original crew that we started in the first season. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, everybody's stuck together.
That's amazing. All right, yes, sir.
Thank you. So you're a prolific maker, and you're a very prolific content creator as well. You've been a maker longer than you've been a content creator. How hard is it to divorce those, and how much do you want to step back from the content creating sometimes just to make it, without some cameras, so you can make as many mistakes as you want without having those eyes on you, and just kind of go back to the roots.
Yeah.
You feel guilty about that.
Oh, I totally feel guilty. To be clear, I built probably 10 times as much stuff as you see on Testing. And a lot of it's shop infrastructure. Some of it's just like I come in and I don't know what to do that day, so I pull something off the wall of uncompleted projects. It's a great question. I ultimately think of both things as the same thing. It's all storytelling. But my testing crew is smiling at your question because there's certainly been moments in which I'm like, you know what, can you guys go back to the office for a couple of hours and let me solve this problem quietly in my head before I'm doing it on... And there are different ways to tell that story. I've certainly gone through that complicated, difficult process on camera, and I love that story. But the first time I took Norm's lens with a broken filter on it on my bandsaw, I needed to do that in quiet privacy. It was too terrifying. So the answer is, I constantly feel guilty that I'm not covering all the things that I build. It's also because sometimes without the crew, it's true, I can think clearer, or I can be willing to make more mistakes. As a producer, yeah, your question's actually bringing up all the stuff that I'm thinking about. As a producer, yeah, I'm always thinking about how the sequence is going to begin, how it's going to end, how it might cut, how these pieces might cut together, and that's a very different set of problem-solving tools than how do I get the silver paint on this not to wear off when it hits this other part.
So
Aren't the mistakes part of the teachable moment, though?
Yes, they totally are. But I have not yet achieved the state where I'm willing to constantly make mistakes. Here's the but. Yes.
Guess what? You're my favorite scientist.
love your cape.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So Adam, you had mentioned costumes that have been sweat into for 10 years at a time. Every year I run into the issue of I'm sweating bullets for 5 days on end, maybe wear it the next year or whatever. I have no idea if there is a way to clean the costume, if you should clean the costume, is they're probably not safe to throw in the
Fire cleans costumes really, really well.
And if you really want to smell some funky costumes,
No, I don't.
You gotta ride an elevator at Dragon Con. Oh man, no, that's serious. The Atlanta Heat, and this is 40,000 dedicated cosplayers. They are not taking those costumes off. I don't know what, I know what they're doing in those costumes. You can smell it in the elevator.
Aaron was giving me the ins and outs of the Dragon Con on the way over here. You were telling me what you told me?
Can I tell
Those furries get a little funky.
Can I tell them your party technique at Dragon Con?
Can you whisper it in my ear first?
Aaron rents a suite of rooms, like 6 rooms, and then throws a party in the middle too. Suites. He throws a party in the middle too, so he doesn't get any noise complaints. That's dedication. White vinegar will help kill the bacteria from your sweat.
Okay.
But your costume's gonna smell, and no one will care.
Okay.
No one goes up to a
great.
giant Boba Fett and has been like, "You stink." You know?
I'm sure the Wookiee gets a little bit.
Vodka works. Do you know what else really works? Because again, I play hockey and hockey. I'm a goalie. Hockey gear gets really funky. Put it in the sun. Sunshine, UV rays, they will take all the stain and kill the bacteria and dry things out and take that stuff away. I find that.
You know, as I pulled out my Wookiee costume yesterday, the previous time I had worn it, which was at Silicon Valley Comic Con, I had a black undersuit, the Under Armour that wicks heat away from your body, and I had crumpled that up and thrown it in the bottom of the wardrobe in which I hang the Chewie costume.
Right.
Yeah, it was a special set of cultures going on. It was like, I was like, ha! Whatever I could get, I'm sure I could cure myself with something in here. Thank you so much.
When you open the wardrobe and it crawls out and starts to get away.
It's like the petri dish in The Thing, right?
That's my favorite scene in the movie, though.
Go ahead.
First off, have you gotten your eyebrow back?
Oh yes. It wasn't as bad as it looked on camera, but it was funny to me that I lost all of my sense of humor when Jamie was like, "You burn like half your hair off." I was like, "Ha ha! What?" Yeah, the show was a constant exercise in lack of dignity equals great television.
And have you personally ever tried or ever wanted to wear samurai armor?
Yes.
And would it be comfortable?
Oh, it depends on how it's made. I have a beautiful set of samurai armor from The Last Samurai. Prop Store of London got a whole bunch of suits, and I bought one from them a few years ago, and I had shin guards for that. But I have always coveted a good set of samurai armor. There's a guy a few years ago who took a Rubbermaid garbage can and built an amazing set of samurai armor out of shoelaces in a garbage can.
What?
Beautiful. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. In fact, like if you want cosplay inspiration, just do a Google image search for cardboard armor. This is People build the most beautiful stuff, and now with Pepakura and the incredible advances in additive foam building with polyethylene and yoga mats and camping mats, people are making full sets of Iron Man armor for dollars, not thousands of dollars. It's awesome. Thank you for that awesome question.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a question about Mythbusters. How did you and Jamie come up with the idea of?
This is really easy. We totally did not. In fact, like a lot of things, this dropped in our laps. It seemed like it was a really unlikely thing. It was the spring of 2002. I had bought a digital video laptop, the Pismo, the first Apple PowerBook devoted to digital video, and I was teaching myself filmmaking. I was just like, oh, I want to know how to edit. So I was like shooting stuff in my house with my friends and cutting it. And Jamie, who was my old boss, called me and said, oh, Discovery called me. I want to make a show called Mythbusters. And I was like, that's a stupid name. And he said, they're wondering if I can host it, and I don't feel like I can do that on my own, but we want to try this together. And so we cut a demo reel in one day and sent it to them. And what we didn't know for several years is that they actually the demo reel is indistinguishable from the early seasons of Mythbusters. And we sort of fell into this wonderful pattern of, this show arrived and it was about investigating things with real dedication, and it happened to two guys who were, and actually eventually five, who were really interested in the results of what was happening. So the most glorious thing is that it doesn't matter that we didn't conceive of the idea. We were ready for the challenge, and that was it's the greatest honor of my life to spend 14 years with that crew and those hosts making that show.
Thank you.
Hey guys.
Hello.
First there, loved you in Dirk Gently. Loved you. That character was amazing. You did great. Did you keep the big fur coat?
No.
Okay. But
I think Elijah has it.
But Adam, how's your Mando coming?
Good. It's coming along. How'd you know? Did I buy the armor from you?
No, because I've been seeing all the SBs, the Silicon Valley stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I saw the helmet that was given to you.
The Mandalorian Mercs gave me a magnificent helmet. A wonderful Boba Fett cosplayer gave me a fantastic helmet a few years ago for my collection. And recently on the RPF, a reasonably large... Boba Fett is the most complicated freaking costume there is.
You got no idea.
There's like 1,000 parts to that thing, and there are arguments about every single piece. I'm working on an ESB Fett, and I think I have about 85% of the parts now.
Yeah, I've got a 2-year whip of a Mando, so it's still fluctuating and not finished.
You're never finished.
No, it's not even approved yet. So, yeah. And I have something for you right here.
Oh, we'll bring it on up. Hello, Oogie Boogie.
Hello.
Oh. Can I share this with my co-hosts?
That's the point.
Awesome. 3D printed coins. What do they say?
It's the Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones!
Oh, wow.
I've heard that's great. What's that?
There's one for Frank.
Oh, there's one for Frank. He's right over there. Ladies and gentlemen, Frankie Molino in the corner. So, Oogie Boogie, what you don't know is that my first mentor in model making was Mitch Romanowski, who ran the model shop for James and the Giant Peach and The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh.
And Mitch passed away a few years ago, but he was a wonderful mentor. He taught me a lot of the earliest, most important lessons about model making. And one of them happened in the middle of the night, and I'm sure you guys have had this moment. It's 4 a.m. and we're heavily kicking silicone because we only have 2 hours before the crew shows up on set, and this prop has to be done in time. And we're like kind of freaking out because we've been going for 20 hours. And Mitch turns to me and he goes, "You know that if we don't get this, it still doesn't really matter." It's just a freaking commercial. Everyone's alive the next day, so you just get philosophical about it. I was like, yeah, you totally do. Sorry, you probably had a question.
That's all right. First, I gotta say I was inspired by your bear costume to make this one. And,
Really?
Yeah, it was super helpful. Unfortunately, while I was making this one, then you made your Totoro costume, and after I got that done, you came up with so many better things. I was like, I should have done that. And now I gotta make another one.
It's a beautiful costume.
Thank you. It's falling apart now. I walked around for 6 hours on the floor with this.
Wow!
It was super comfortable. And I got 7 people thought I was you, and that was the best compliment I've ever had.
Did you give them passes to the panel? Nothing for you, Adam. There's passes to the panel. Go ahead.
I tried to reach into the pockets and just
Alligator arms. Oh, those arms are terrifying.
my one question for
How do you go
and-
to the bathroom?
I'm sorry. My wife helps me. She watches the costume. She watches.
So it's also like a coming home cosplay. Yeah, I went there. Go ahead.
So my one question for you and for anyone on the panel too. You do so many different creative things. Is there any one creative outlet that you haven't yet explored, any type of medium that you haven't explored yet that you want to?
Oh, there's so many. Glass blowing? Yeah, I've never actually, I took a bunch of classes in neon back in New York in the mid-'80s when my parents were like, we'll pay for anything as long as now that you've dropped out of college, we'll pay for all sorts of classes. Yeah, I've recently taken up the guitar. My sons, Thing 1 and Thing 2 are both amazing musicians, and I've been inspired by their example and have bought a couple of guitars, and one for the shop and one for the... I'm profligate about my habits. And I play 3 songs on the guitar. My family is sick of all 3 of them. But, you know, it's the stupidest thing I ever thought in my whole life. I was 18 years old, a friend of mine had welded a sculpture, and I was like, wow, he can weld. There's a skill I'm never going to have time to learn. That was literally one of the dumbest thoughts that crossed my brain. It's like the thing I would tell my young self, there's 2 things. One would be, use more cooling fluid. But the other one would be, you have more time than you think.
Yeah.
You really do.
Oh,
There's so many second and third and fourth acts, right?
Yeah.
And when you're young, you're like, oh, I gotta figure out what I gotta do, because everything's, you know, everyone's been asking me what I want to do when I grow up since I was no years old, which is the worst question to ask children. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And now I'm getting a sign here that says stop. So Oogie Boogie, thank you very much. And Kamen Please give it up.